The rain fell in sheets that night, the kind that turns city streets into rivers and drowns out all sound except its own relentless drumming. That's why Marcus almost didn't hear the knock. 3 soft taps, barely audible above the storm. When he opened his apartment door, he found a woman he'd never seen before, soaked to the bone, clutching a small backpack to her chest. "Can I stay with you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Those 5 words would alter the course of his life forever. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional journeys that remind us how a single moment can change everything. Marcus Reynolds had lived alone for 3 years in apartment 4B of the Westbrook complex. At 32, he had settled into the comfortable predictability of solitude after his fiancée left him for a life in another city. He wasn't bitter anymore, just cautious, reserved, and perhaps a little too comfortable with his routines. He worked as an architectural designer at a mid-sized firm downtown, spent his evenings sketching building concepts or reading, and his weekends hiking when weather permitted. His friends had mostly paired off, married, started families. Marcus told himself he was content with his quiet life, though the silence in his apartment sometimes grew so loud it kept him awake at night. The woman at his door that rainy Tuesday evening looked about his age, maybe younger. Her dark hair clung to her face in wet strands, and despite the warm June temperature, she was shivering. What struck Marcus most were her eyes, amber-colored and filled with a mixture of desperation and determination. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, instinctively blocking the doorway. "I think you have the wrong apartment." "No," she said firmly. "I don't. Your name is Marcus Reynolds. You work at Hartman and Associates. You drive a blue Subaru that you park in spot 16. You leave for work at 7:45 every morning, and you come home between 6:10 and 6:30 every evening except Thursdays, when you stop at Riverdale Market first." Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the rain seeping through his doorway. "Who are you? How do you know all that?" "My name is Eliza Winters. And I need your help because someone is trying to kill me." Marcus should have closed the door. He should have called the police. Instead, he found himself stepping aside, letting this stranger, this potential stalker, into his home. Perhaps it was the certainty in her voice, or the fact that she didn't look dangerous, just terrified. Or maybe it was simply that after 3 years of predictable days bleeding into predictable nights, something inside him recognized this moment as important. "You have 5 minutes to explain," he said, handing her a towel from the hallway closet. "Then I'm calling the police." Eliza took the towel but didn't use it immediately. "The police can't help me. They think I'm dead." She pulled out her phone and showed him a news article dated 3 days earlier. The headline read, "Local journalist presumed dead after car found in river." Below was a photo of Eliza, hair shorter, expression more confident, but unmistakably her. "I was investigating corruption at Meridian Pharmaceuticals," she explained, finally drying her hair with the towel. "I found evidence that they've been falsifying clinical trial data for a new drug. The night before my car ended up in the river, I received this." She showed him an email, *, stop digging or start swimming. Final warning, *. "Why me?" Marcus asked, still not entirely convinced. "Of all the people in this city, why come to my door?" Eliza's expression softened slightly. "Because you're invisible, Marcus. You live a quiet life. You don't have social media. You pay for everything with cash. You have no connection to my world or to Meridian. And..." She hesitated. "Your brother was James Reynolds, wasn't he? The whistleblower who exposed that defense contractor 5 years ago." The mention of his brother's name hit Marcus like a physical blow. James had died in what was officially ruled an accident 2 months after going public with evidence of fraud. Marcus had never believed it was coincidental. "How did you know about James?" "I interviewed him before he died. He mentioned you once, said his little brother was the only person he trusted completely." I never forgot that. Marcus sat down heavily on his couch. So what exactly are you asking me to do? Let me stay here for 3 days. Just until my contact can get me the documents I need to safely go public with what I know. After that, I disappear from your life forever. 3 days. 72 hours that would completely upend the careful isolation Marcus had built around himself. If I say no? Eliza gathered her wet backpack. Then I'll leave right now. Find somewhere else. But I don't have many options left, and time is running out. The rain continued its assault on the windows as Marcus considered his options. The sensible choice was clear: tell her to leave, lock the door, return to his safe, predictable life. Instead, he heard himself say, "The guest room is down the hall on the left. There are clean towels in the bathroom cabinet." The first night, Marcus barely slept. He wedged a chair under his bedroom doorknob, kept his phone close, and listened for any sound that might indicate Eliza was more than she claimed to be. By morning, exhaustion had made him irritable. "I need to go to work," he told her as she sat at his kitchen table, wearing an oversized t-shirt he'd lent her. Her clothes were still drying on the shower rod. "What will you do all day?" "Stay inside. Away from windows. Work on organizing my evidence." She looked up from the coffee he'd made her. "I won't touch anything I shouldn't. I won't answer the door or phone. No one will know I'm here." Marcus nodded stiffly. "I'll be back around 6. All day at work, he found himself unable to focus. His mind kept returning to the stranger in his apartment. Was she really in danger, or was this an elaborate con? Was he being naive? What would James have done? When he returned home that evening, he half expected to find his apartment emptied of valuables. Instead, he found Eliza exactly where he'd left her, surrounded by notes and her laptop, her hair now dry and falling in soft waves around her face. "I made dinner," she said, gesturing toward the kitchen. "It's not much, just pasta with what I found in your pantry. I hope that's okay." It had been years since Marcus had come home to the smell of cooking and the sight of another person waiting for him. Something tight in his chest loosened slightly. They ate together in awkward silence until Marcus finally asked, "So what exactly did you find at Meridian?" Eliza's expression darkened. "Their new migraine medication, Neuro-Ease. It's supposed to be revolutionary, no side effects, works within minutes. The stock price has tripled since they announced the successful trials." But the trials weren't successful. They manipulated data, removed participants who had severe reactions, falsified results. The drug causes liver damage in about 1 in 12 patients. If it gets FDA approval, which it's on track to receive next month, thousands of people could die. Marcus thought of his brother, who had discovered similar deception in military-grade equipment that had resulted in soldier deaths. "Do you have proof?" "I have testimonies from 2 researchers who were fired and made to sign NDAs. I have some internal emails. But I need the actual trial data, the real numbers. My contact at the company is trying to get it to me, but it's risky." "And someone tried to kill you because of this?" Eliza's hand trembled slightly as she set down her fork. "I was driving home 3 nights ago when a black SUV forced me off the road near Westbrook Bridge. I managed to get out of the car before it went into the water, but they didn't see me escape. I've been hiding ever since, trying to figure out my next move." Marcus studied her face, looking for signs of deception. He found none, only exhaustion and resolve. "Why risk your life for this? Why not just walk away?" Eliza met his gaze steadily. "My sister died from a medication that was rushed to market despite known risks. The company paid a fine that amounted to less than 1% of their profits from the drug. No one went to jail. Nothing changed." She took a deep breath. "Some things are worth risking everything for. Don't you think?" The question hung between them, and Marcus found himself thinking of James again, his passion, his certainty, his courage. Qualities Marcus had always admired but never quite found in himself. "I think," he said slowly, "that I need to know more about what I've gotten myself into." By the second day, the awkwardness between them had begun to dissolve. Eliza shared more details about her investigation, showing Marcus the evidence she'd gathered over 6 months of work. Marcus found himself impressed by her thoroughness and her commitment to getting the story right. "You remind me of James," he told her as they sat on his balcony after dark, the only time Eliza would venture near windows. "He was relentless when he believed in something." "Tell me about him," she said softly. No one had asked Marcus about his brother in years. His friends had stopped mentioning James, afraid to upset him. His parents had retreated into their grief, moving to Arizona and rarely calling. The memories Marcus kept of his brother had become private things, treasured but unshared. Yet here in the darkness, with this woman he barely knew, the words came easily. He told her about growing up with James, who was 7 years older and had always looked out for him. About how James had paid for Marcus's first semester of college when their parents couldn't afford it. About the last conversation they'd had, a week before the accident, when James had seemed worried but determined. "He told me that doing the right thing was rarely the easy thing," Marcus said, staring out at the city lights. "But that the cost of staying silent was always higher in the end." Eliza was quiet for a long moment. "He sounds like someone I would have liked to know better." "He would have liked you too," Marcus said, surprised to find he meant it. That night, he didn't wedge the chair under his doorknob. The third day was a Saturday. Marcus usually spent weekends alone, but having Eliza in his space no longer felt like an intrusion. They fell into an easy rhythm. He made breakfast while she checked secure messaging channels for word from her contact. They talked about books they'd read, places they'd traveled, the architecture Marcus loved, the stories Eliza had covered before Meridian. In the afternoon, her phone pinged with an encrypted message. "It's happening," she said, suddenly tense. "Tonight. 11 p.m. My contact is leaving the files in a locker at Central Station." Marcus felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. This was what they'd been waiting for, what Eliza needed to safely go public with her story and move on with her life. Away from danger. Away from his apartment. Away from him. "That's good news," he said, forcing enthusiasm into his voice. "You'll have what you need." Eliza nodded, but she seemed distracted. "I should go alone." "It's safer for you." "No." The firmness in his voice surprised them both. "We go together or not at all. James would never forgive me if I let you walk into potential danger alone." She started to argue but must have seen the determination in his face. "Okay. Together then." As evening approached, the atmosphere in the apartment grew charged with anticipation. They prepared as best they could, charging phones, planning routes to and from the station, discussing contingencies. When it was time to leave, Eliza paused at the door. "Marcus," she said, her voice serious. "Thank you. Whatever happens tonight, I want you to know that these 3 days, they've meant something to me." Before he could respond, she leaned forward and kissed him lightly on the cheek. The simple gesture carried a weight that left him momentarily speechless. "Let's go get your evidence," he finally said. Central Station was nearly empty at 11 p.m. on a Saturday. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floor as they made their way to the bank of lockers near the east entrance. Eliza had the key her contact had left under a specific bench, exactly where promised. "Locker 237, she murmured, scanning the numbers. They found it in the bottom row. Eliza's hands trembled slightly as she inserted the key and turned it. The small door swung open to reveal a USB drive and a manila envelope. "This is it," she breathed, reaching for the items. That's when Marcus noticed the man watching them from near the ticket counter. He wore a dark suit and had been pretending to check his phone, but his attention was clearly on them. As their eyes met, the man reached inside his jacket. "Eliza," Marcus said urgently, "we need to go. Now." She grabbed the USB and envelope, slammed the locker shut, and followed his gaze. Her face paled. Back exit. Through the tunnels. They moved quickly, not running but walking with purpose toward the subway entrance. Marcus could hear footsteps behind them, gaining. His heart hammered in his chest as they descended the stairs to the platform. A train was just pulling in. Without discussion, they rushed forward and slipped through the doors just as they were closing. Through the window, Marcus saw the man in the suit reach the platform too late, his expression cold with fury. "He'll call for backup," Eliza said, clutching the envelope tightly. "We need to switch trains, get back to your car on a different route." For the next hour, they navigated the city's transit system in a careful dance of evasion, changing trains, doubling back, using service exits. By the time they reached Marcus's car, parked blocks from his apartment in a 24-hour garage, they were both exhausted but alert with adrenaline. "We did it," Eliza said as they drove, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "We actually did it." Marcus kept checking the rearview mirror, still not convinced they were safe. "What now?" "Now I need to get this to my editor. He has a secure location where I can work on the story. Once it's published, Meridian can't risk coming after me without confirming their guilt." The realization that this was truly ending, that Eliza would be leaving his life as suddenly as she had entered it, hit Marcus with unexpected force. 3 days ago, he had been content with his solitude. Now the thought of returning to it felt hollow. "Will I see you again?" he asked, keeping his eyes on the road. Eliza was quiet for so long that he thought she might not answer. Finally, she said, "I'd like that. But my life is complicated right now, and I've already put you at risk." "I'm not afraid of complicated," Marcus said, surprising himself with the truth of it. "James taught me that some things are worth the risk." They drove in silence for several blocks before Eliza reached across the console and took his hand. Her fingers were warm against his, and in that simple touch was a promise neither of them was ready to put into words. The story broke 2 weeks later. Pharmaceutical giant falsified trial data, endangered thousands, read the headline across major news outlets. Eliza's byline was prominently featured, along with her photograph, no longer in hiding, but standing confidently in the light of truth. The fallout was immediate and far-reaching. Meridian's stock plummeted. The FDA suspended the approval process for NeuroEase. Multiple executives were placed on leave pending investigation. Congressional hearings were scheduled. Marcus watched it all unfold from his apartment, where the silence no longer felt comfortable. Eliza had contacted him only once since that night, a text message with a single line, "Thank you for helping me change the world a little bit." He had replied, "Thank you for helping me rejoin it." Now, as he watched her being interviewed on a national news program, looking poised and passionate as she explained the importance of corporate accountability, he felt a mixture of pride and longing. She had returned to her life, and he to his. Perhaps that was how it needed to be. The knock on his door came just after the interview ended. 3 soft taps, just like the first time. When he opened it, Eliza stood there, not rain-soaked and desperate this time, but smiling, a small suitcase beside her. "Can I stay with you?" she asked. Marcus felt something shift inside him, the last walls of isolation crumbling away, making room for possibility, for connection, for the kind of courage his brother had always believed he possessed. "For how long?" he asked, already knowing his answer would be yes, regardless of her reply. Eliza's smile deepened. "Let's start with dinner. And then, we'll see where it goes." As he stepped aside to let her in, Marcus thought about how a single choice, opening his door to a stranger on a rainy night, had changed everything. How sometimes the most important moments of our lives arrive disguised as interruptions to our carefully planned routines. And how, Sometimes, saying yes to the unexpected.